Hey friends, and welcome to the second episode of Word of Jim Wednesday. Today I have a lot of really good stuff for you. We're mostly going to cover one really long interview that I saw, and this interview is called Exclusive Interview with Jim Butcher, Unveiling the Magic Behind the Something. The title was a little bit long and it got cut off when I was watching it, so tell me in the comments down below what the title actually is and you'll get a thumbs up. This interview was with JR Carrel. It was really interesting, and you should totally go watch it after you finish watching this video. All links are going to be in the description as always, and let's get started. The reason we're only doing one interview is because there's a lot of good stuff in it. I did have to cross-reference it with a little bit of Word of Jim from the official site, and I'll link that down below as well. I'm going to skip around the interview a little bit. This comes in around the 49-minute mark, and it's all about the Dresden Files spinoff for Goodman Grey. So yes, there will be a spinoff of Dresden Files. Dresden Files is going to finish in 7 or 8 years, and then Jim is going to start writing Monster LLC starring Goodman Grey. And I know a lot of people already know about this series, but I got to piece together basically the entire premise of it in a little bit more detail, and I'm really excited about it. Goodman Grey is a fixer, and he solves problems that only a monster can solve, not a hero. He's much darker than Dresden, and has a lot less problems with morality and just doing stuff. He's made a deal to keep his soul and free will, and be who he wants to be. That deal is that he has to help someone at least once a year, and he pays his sponsor $1 every single year earned by doing something good. Sometimes Harry will be a sponsor or an enemy or a client. And then Butcher clarified that he hasn't figured out if Harry survives the series yet, so I don't know if he gave something away or if he still legitimately hasn't figured out if Harry's going to survive the series. Butcher did dodge a question about who gets to judge what nominally good means. It could be Goodman Grey, it could be his sponsor, or it could be the universe. Just a little sidebar, maybe Kringle is his sponsor since he's the one who told Dresden about him in the first place. It would be hilarious if a Nagloshi scion was sort of handled by freaking Santa Claus. Talk about knowing if someone's been bad or good, and then having to deal with freaking Odin if you don't do it right. Now, in a 2016 episode of the Dresden Files Reddit podcast Q&A, somebody asked if Goodman Grey is able to steal magic from wizards the same way that the Nagloshi do. The Nagloshi can steal magic from wizards, but it's very costly to them. The more you become something other than you are, the less of you is left over. He could theoretically get a gulp of Dresden's blood and become Dresden, power and all, but especially with such a powerful wizard in question, he would be Dresden at that point. There wouldn't be anything of Grey left to make decisions. It would basically be a form of only with a really hard-on building's corpse left over. The Nagloshi themselves, as immortals, are immutable, but Grey has free will. And that's basically quoted from the Word of Jim and maybe paraphrased from the podcast, but just quoted straight up verbatim from the thing. So basically, Goodman Grey is paying rent on his soul and his free will. Or at least that's what I think that the rent is. He's getting somebody's help in order to not just let becoming other things consume him and change him into something different. And I think it'll be fun to have that more gritty story from Goodman Grey's perspective. He's a really fun character, and I'm really psyched for this, and it's going to make the Dresden Files ending be a little bit less sad for me. And hey, more stuff to talk about on the channel. Jim Butcher did talk about a possible Dresden Files adaptation on screen. The one on Sci-Fi did not happen in this universe, as far as I'm concerned. Apparently the rights were at ABC for a while, but different factions conflicted with other projects, and it wasn't going to be what Jim wanted. Then Disney took over and dropped the project. Butcher is in talks with a streaming platform as of that interview, and he's really excited with their particular version for the series. Butcher has said that he's not going to let there be a show unless he's in charge of the writer's room, thank goodness. He thinks it's really important to respect the source material and not try to reinvent the wheel when the wheel is really good. Right now the series they want to do is a live action, but he actually considers the series to be like an anime in his head when he's writing it. And the drawing style that he imagines is like Record of the Lotus War, which is an older anime that I've never seen before. Also, it would be really cool if James Marsters was able to do like multiple voices in an animated Dresden verse. That would be a lot of fun. Sorry, I really like James Marsters and the job that he's done on the series, so anytime I can get more of him, I'm excited to get it. Somebody asked if the Pyro Fuego spell from Grave Peril was a death curse, and apparently it's not, but it's something that we've never seen before. He talks about this at about the 1 hour and 22-minute mark in the episode. And apparently we're not going to find out exactly what that is until book 22, which is presumably the first book in the big apocalyptic trilogy. And this has me wondering if Harry's decision to burn down Bianca's mansion was the decision that created the mirror universe that we're going to get in a book or two. Maybe this is why his mother's amulet made him not burn down Victor Sell's house in the first book. He had to save it for book 3. Or maybe she did try again and he just didn't listen because you know how Harry gets. At the hour and 24-minute mark, he did drop something that literally made me gasp out loud and scare my dog. Somebody asked, why didn't Justine make a move on Demon Reach in Cold Days? And Jim said, because she wasn't infected yet. Now, this personally changes a lot of my theories about Justine and exactly what she was doing or what Nemesis was trying to get her to do in the service of Harry Dresden. There's a short story called Bombshells that I've talked about in the past, and in this story, Andy, Molly, and Justine have to go and rescue Thomas from the Svartalf embassy where he's tried to James Bond his way into stopping something. And there's a big party going on at the embassy because the Svartals have made a non-aggression pact with the Fomor. And of course, Molly and friends put an end to that, and at the end she finds out that Harry did survive the events it changes. I was going on the assumption that Justine was infected and that might be how Andy gets infected. This hasn't been confirmed, I don't think, but I'm 99% sure that Andy, who's Butter's girlfriend and one of the werewolf girls, is infected. So maybe it's the other way around, like maybe Andy infects Justine later. But also Bombshells in particular takes place before Cold Days, so it wouldn't have been during this mission that would have happened. So if Justine wasn't infected in Cold Days, she would have had to be infected either right after that story ended, or sometime during Skin Game, or between Skin Game and Peace Talks. But we also know that earlier in the series, like after she gets fed on almost to her end in Blood Rights, and this point that she wasn't infected, she didn't get infected the moment that she became so weak that she almost didn't make it. She was infected much later. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind when I do theory videos. Sometimes it's okay to be wrong. Jim also talked a lot about writing in this episode. And when I say episode, I mean this interview. I'm probably getting that word confused from earlier. Apparently Babylon 5 is a show for writers because it's really, really good at dropping plot arcs super early that come into play later. Like things that happened in season 1 only came into play in season 5. And that's a series that he sat down and watched with his son, James J. Butcher, who's started the Unorthodox Chronicles, his own urban fantasy series. Jim Butcher offered to teach his son writing when he was about to go off to college, and his son was like, nah, I want to go learn from professionals, like his professors. And then he came to the conclusion that his professors probably wished that they were in Jim Butcher's position where they had made a career and a living out of writing books instead of teaching other people to write. So then he goes back to his dad and is like, hey dad, you know a lot about this thing I care about. Can you teach me? And Jim Butcher seemed very happy to oblige. He also said that it feels weird to be somebody who inspires other writers or somebody who people credit with getting them through really tough times. And he says that if you want to pay him back, then go plant seeds of kindness and do positive things for others. He also makes jokes about how people already bought his book, so he's already been paid. And kind of acts like a mercenary, but I also think it's kind of that awkward position where it's like, I'm making this great art that everybody likes, and I'm really proud of that, but at the same time, I gotta go buy dino nuggies for my kids. Which is respectable. That's why we all go to work. He also said that if he was really in it for the money, he'd be writing romantasy under the pen name Jamie Boucher. And I thought that was very silly and funny. I don't know if he'd be the best romantasy writer, but I like dark, gritty stuff. And whatever the hell Dresden Files is. So that would be funny if he decided, oh, I need another cabin in the woods, and decided to start writing romantasy. I don't know. Some business dealings. Apparently Brandon Sanderson thinks that Jim Butcher could do a 6-figure plus Kickstarter project like he did. And Jim's actually working on, I don't know why I just called him Jim. I don't know the guy. Parasocial stuff is weird. But Jim Butcher is actually working on something like that. And he thinks that the future of being an author is going to be like a hybrid publishing model, where sometimes you work with the big major publishers and other times you do things independently. And I know from like my booktube time that if you're not like a Brandon Sanderson or a Sarah J. Maas or one of the big name, always bestseller type authors, you don't get a lot of support or as much support from your publisher as you might expect. And so you end up doing a lot of the advertising and editing and some stuff that you would expect them to do yourself anyways. So why not take all the money? Apparently the Christmas Eve short story, which I've done a video on, I think there was another Christmas short story. I also talked about that in the same video. I'll link that down in the description. Was a time where he was just super focused and wrote 6,000 words in an hour of that story. And I think that's really cool. That's like a lot to get down on paper at one time. I'm not even a writer and I know that that's a lot. Scripting theory videos does not count. But he also said that he doesn't write anything until he knows exactly how the chapter is going to go in his head. Then he talked about 12 months, and basically this is going to be a book about how to pick yourself up when you take a big hit. A lot of the emotions that Harry's feeling are what Butcher felt a couple years ago, and either you deal with it or it comes back up in ways that you don't expect. When you have as much power as Harry, that's really bad. I'm paraphrasing what he said. I'm reading my notes off. But when I heard this, it was really giving evil villain origin story vibes. And Harry's already learning to sort of play the game that people like Mab play, where they deal and scheme and try to do things themselves, but can't just like snap their fingers and make something happen some of the time. But Harry's really started to associate himself with some really dark, dangerous people that are trying to pull him further into that darkness, and Harry's trying to fix himself up and survive. Apparently a person that you made mad is really mad at you, and you have to deal with the Queen of the White Court on a regular basis, talk to lawyers about some terms of the dates that have been set up, and it's stirring up old feelings for Butcher, but he's also really proud of how far he's come. What I'm trying to figure out now is who the person that Harry made mad being mad is. Could that be Carlos? Could that be McCoy? Harry pisses a lot of people off, okay? This isn't a very specific description. I really don't want Harry and McCoy to come to blows again. I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to find out that McCoy is doing some dangerous stuff that's going to piss Harry off and just make him into a villain, and I don't want to see it. That would just be really sad. And I also know at this point in the story, Carlos Ramirez's trust in Harry is pretty much gone. So we'll see how all that turns out. And I guess going back to the point about how I think that maybe setting Bianca's house on fire was like the big thing in grave peril, Jim Butcher did wink when he said that Harry had a lot of time to think and maybe he shouldn't go for Fireball as his first solution for solving every problem. And now I think I need to go take notes and start working on another video. There's some more stuff in my notes that I didn't cover, but I think we're already running long. I did promise y'all this video was going to come out before midnight this time. I'll leave links to all the source material in the description below, and feel free to comment and tell me what your favorite stuff was, or what you're really interested in learning about, or just how psyched you are for Mirror Mirror to come out in January. I meant 12 months. It would be really cool if Mirror Mirror came out at the same time, but I don't think that that's going to happen. Take care, friends.